Hey guys, Izzy here, back with another video, and today we're actually going to be talking about Devstream 162. And this is basically going to be a follow-up on the Zariman video that I did make. If you guys haven't watched that yet, to talk about Angels of Zariman update, I do definitely suggest you do so. It's a really good video. I did give my thoughts, my initial thoughts at least, of what the update was and what I thought about it, and kind of talked about the whole thing, but mainly the biggest issues. And this is basically going to be a follow-up on it, since I did talk about Eximus units in the Angels of Zariman video, and it was actually a pretty big thing in that video. And they did mention changes that are coming for the Eximus units in the next update, which is going to be Echoes of Zariman, which is going to be bringing more content for the Zariman tile set, and in general, like the market there. That's going to be bringing some new items and a couple of changes to the operator and arcane, so that's pretty cool. But I mainly wanted to talk about the Eximus changes, because, like I said, I did talk about that in the Zariman video, which I did mention was an issue, and I feel like, to some degree, these changes that they are making, or they did discuss in the Devstream, fix kind of the issues. Some of them, not all of them. They did not address some of the things that I believe are still pretty detrimental to the experience of casuals or newer players, which is very important, I believe. And this wouldn't be a thing, of course, if this rework for Eximus units would be somewhere else rather than just the overall experience of Warframe. Like, for example, if this rework would be somewhere where it would be endgame, but that's besides the point. Let's go ahead and just talk about some of the changes. As you guys can see on my screen, they did mention a couple of changes, like the redistribution of less overguard. Right here they say we are adjusting Eximus and their overguard mechanic after much discussion and feedback from the community. So they're at least listening to the feedback of the community. They've always have been, I mean, mainly or mostly have been, listening to the community always. So that's really great. That's one thing I love about DE. So they did, of course, fix a couple of things and a couple of bugs. So let's start off with the overguard part. They did mention that they are going to be reducing the overguard for 50%, which is a good chunk. It's a good chunk, and they are going to be, of course, compensating that 50% loss with either health or shield, or unless they're going to make it so that it's 25% shield and 25% health. I'm not exactly sure how they're going to redistribute that, but 50% health or shield is just fine. That they did state in the Devstream that this is just going to make them less tankier, so less of a bullet punch and more just high HP. I guess it's overall better for I guess the lower level Eximuses, which kind of fixes somewhat of the problem that I didn't mention in the Zariman video, where newer players are going to be struggling with Eximus units whenever they encounter them, and casual players that might not play the game as much as maybe someone like me does, they're going to be struggling a lot with the Eximus units, especially if they don't have any sort of end game weapon. Especially newer players, like their arsenal is pretty fucking scuffed to begin with. Like, it's really bad. But this does at least fix some of the issues in regards to that. They did also mention that they are going to be fixing a couple of the bugs. Also, they did mention that this is not going to be affecting the Thrax units, which is fine. I mean, Thrax units, I believe the Zariman is a little bit higher level, so I don't think newer players are going to be into that portion of the game for a very long time. But by the time that they get there, they'll at least have some weapons that they can go ahead and use, probably to handle the Thrax units in that specific mode. Thrax units are not something that you're going to be encountering in any other planet other than the Zariman, so that's fine. That's whatever. Now, they did mention that they are going to be fixing an issue with the Nox Nox Eximus units, which I didn't know this was actually a thing, but apparently the helmet mechanic that they had was overlapping with Overguard, so that meant that basically they were having 2 damage reductions at the same time, which made them a lot more bulkier. And even if you took out their helmet mechanic, they still had the Overguard, and even if you took down the Overguard, they still had the helmet mechanics damage reduction, so it's kind of like overlapping there. But now, at least from my understanding, once you remove the Overguard, you remove the helmet mechanics damage reduction as well, and so would be the helmet, apparently, I believe. So that's pretty good, especially because this is something that, like Nox in general, is something that you are going to be finding a lot of in, like, XP farms, because typically you would go to like something like Hydron, Selene, if you're lower level. You would go to those places to level up your frames, level up your weapons, and it would kind of be funny to, you know, be leveling up and then you just encounter an Eximus Nox unit and you're like, yeah, I don't know how to fix this, because I mean they have overlapping damage reduction. So that's good that they are actually looking into that. That's pretty good. They let me see here, and they're also you know, they're also, you know, going, it's an ongoing thing. They're receiving feedback and discussion, and I'm gonna give them, of course, the benefit of the doubt, because there's certainly things here that that they did not talk about, like in terms of like damage, in terms of like how the overlapping effects of the Eximus units can be very detrimental, especially when there's more than 3 Eximus units on screen. But again, it is ongoing. They are receiving feedback, they are applying it, but I believe this change is going to be taking effect on the update for Echoes of the Zariman, like I did mention in the beginning of the video. So this is supposed to be taking effect on June 9th, and we're currently at May 20th. This is not a lot of time to apply all the changes or all the feedback that the community might have, so I'm not 100% sure if this is going to be all of it, but hopefully it's not, because I mean, they definitely do they definitely do need like more changes, I believe. Now, at least as for what has been mentioned, I can speculate that this could be a very positive change. I don't think anyone can say that making them less of a bullet sponge is a bad thing, because I mean, I would believe that making enemies a bullet sponge is a very cheap way of making them quote-unquote difficult. This is gonna be this is gonna better the first experience of newer players against Eximus units, in my opinion, because it's gonna make it so that it's not as excessively difficult for them to KO. Because I mean, again, you have to put yourself in a position where a newer player barely has any weapons at all that are good, and no mods, no anything, and unless they find someone that gives them the mods already, like you know, leveled up or anything like that, and chances are this person is not going to be able to take down the current Eximus units, or they can be pretty hard for newer players, and maybe for casuals that don't have the knowledge of weapons or just in general, like the end game stuff. So yeah, but I could say that this is definitely a step in the right direction. They are addressing bugs in regards to Eximus units, and also just in general addressing the fact that yes, Eximus units seem to be a little bit too much a bullet sponge, and yeah, there's still things that they have not mentioned. They did not mention things like the damage, the amount of damage scaling that Eximus units have. I believe it's a little bit higher than just regular units, so things like endless missions for defenses, if you're trying to do something like a buff, maybe. This is just speculating, actually. Like, it really depends on the tiles and the level that you start off in. But say for example, if you're trying to go for like a 40 wave type of defense, if an Eximus unit happens to be on the field, multiple of them, it could be pretty hard to, if not kill them. If you're not able to kill them, they might just be able to just destroy the defense objective pretty easily. And there's no mention as to the damage scaling for them, so maybe it's something that they will be touching on, but they just didn't touch on the Devstream, at least not for what I was able to hear. And again, in the chart that you're able to see on screen, they did not mention nothing in regards to this. They also didn't mention the overlapping effects of the Eximus units, like, say, for example, energy leeching. Eximus units could still be extremely annoying, especially if there's multiple of them, or of different kinds, especially in strongholds. I mean, I guess it's shorty, so I guess it's kind of to be expected that they are going to be a little bit harder, but having multiple Eximus units just proc their effects on you multiple times, overlapping on you, can be... It can be just super fucking annoying, I'll be real. And especially if their energy leeches, because your energy's gone. It's never coming back. It's just left home, and it's never going to knock on your door again. Like, you're just energy-less for the rest of the mission. Even after the mission, you'll be energy-less forever. Just kidding, but you get the point. They didn't mention any of that, which I hope they do eventually address these type of things, because again, this would be really... It's not a pleasant experience, and it's not a difficult fight. It becomes an annoying fight rather than a difficult fight. And this is kind of something that... This is basically what the Eximus units are to most people that are, like I said, casuals or new players, or maybe even veterans that are just coming back. It is an annoyance. It's more so an annoyance rather than a difficult fight. And speaking of difficult fights, Pablo did mention in the Devstream, which I think I can agree with to a certain extent, because I did read a couple of posts in regards to what he said, and I do also agree with the community. Basically, Pablo mentioned that because some of the player base was complaining about Eximus units being immune to crowd control, and to an extent I do agree with Pablo in the sense that they could have the most sophisticated, most smartest AI in the world, and if they allow for it to be crowd controlled by something like, say, even Nova or Korra, it's just gonna be nullified. It's not gonna matter how smart or sophisticated the AI is going to be. It's going to be nullified, and it's not even going to matter at all. It's just going to be like another unit. It's just going to be a regular unit being crowd controlled and fucked in the ass. And I agree with him in the sense that, yes, that's true. I don't agree that they should be completely immune to crowd control. I believe to a certain extent they should resist it, but not necessarily be immune to it. And I agree with the community's thoughts on this on this statement, because as they mentioned, they addressed the crowd control part as if crowd control was kind of like the big problem with making sophisticated AI, while we actually have a pretty big problem with the pretty much best thing to use is AoE weapons, like the range, the whole fact that AoE weapons trivialize most of the content in the game, if not all of it. Like, and I agree with that. It's true. Like, AoE weapons have been extremely dominant, really. They've been extremely dominant, and addressing crowd control in a way that's kind of like detrimental to trying to make more difficult fights makes it feel like, because they've previously acknowledged that AoE have been very dominant and has been very detrimental, and that crowd control to a certain extent was dead for a good portion of previous years. Because, I mean, the belief was that the best crowd control is if everyone's dead. And, I mean, that makes sense, it makes sense. There's no better crowd control when there's no crowd to control, So, again, I agree with that. And that's what made AoE weapons such a a prevalent thing. So it makes it so that it's harder to make more sophisticated AI. I wouldn't necessarily say that. I wouldn't necessarily say that crowd control is what's making it harder for them to create sophisticated AI, or smarter AI. I just believe that they could have a resistance, and that would be better than just being flat out immune to it. Because it, it just makes no sense for them to be immune to a Warframe ability, right? I don't believe so anyway, or I believe so anyway, that it doesn't make sense. And AoE can be actually very detrimental, because one of the things that I thought previously that was actually mentioned in like a pretty old a pretty old Devstream was the idea of making it so that you have to hit certain parts of the Eximus unit in order to kill it. And I thought that was a really cool idea, and I thought that was something that they would eventually implement, but they did not. That's not to say that we don't already have units that have this idea. I mean, we already have Nox with the helmet mechanic. We also have the infested unit from Deimos, where it has like its shoulders that pop out and you can shoot at them and does more damage. Those things already exist. The fact that they didn't implement that to the Eximus units, which was something that they were initially going to do, or initially discussing on the fact that they would do, is kind of weird. And I thought probably it's something to do with AoE, but for at least those specific portions of the body, you can definitely just make them immune to the AoE damage and have to take direct damage from the weapon that you're using. So that could be a neat idea. Of course, it could be a little bit maybe detrimental to like the fast-paced combat of Warframe, because you do have to kind of stop and kind of aim at these certain spots. But I don't really think it would be too detrimental, because again, it's something that's already implemented in the game. It's something that already exists with some units in the game, so it's not really something too I don't think it's going to be something too detrimental to the fast-paced combat of the game. But that's just pretty much. I thought that was a good idea, and I thought that was something that would be good. Another thing, at least, to fix the overlapping effects of the Eximus units would be to have a cooldown as to the amount of effects that could happen towards your Warframe from these Eximus units. Like, say for example, if your Warframe is currently experiencing the energy leech effect, they should not be experiencing either another energy leeching effect or another Eximus unit effect in general, or make it so that it's only 2 effects at once and cannot have more than one. Because I mean, if you have multiple Eximus units on the field doing multiple overlapping effects on you, you are literally going to die. Like, it's either you're going to die, or it's gonna make it so that the experience that you're fighting against all these Eximus units extremely annoying, and not think that it's hard. Actually, like, one of the ways that I'm thinking about the fact that we have overlapping effects like these, it makes me think of the first time that I fought against the Prophet Taker, where all these sort of mechanics were happening at once, and I had all this fucking amount of people, all these enemies around me just attack me while I was down. I was getting fucking beat, tossed around like a ping pong ball. Like, it was very annoying. It wasn't a difficult fight, which is a very, very annoying fight. And while I know how to do it now, and it's a lot easier to make it now, it was still a very bad experience, and it really made me not want to do it again afterwards. So that's kind of like fighting multiple Eximus units now. It's kind of the same. But yeah, that's kind of my initial thoughts on it. I wanted to talk. I wanted to record another video, a video after the dev stream was done, but I wanted to collect my thoughts, and I did happen to record a video a couple of hours after the dev stream, but I thought I missed out on a lot of the points that I wanted to touch bases on So I instead made this one. I had some bullet points as to what I wanted to discuss, so I didn't miss I necessarily miss on some of the things that I did want to mention on the video. But yeah, that's pretty much my initial thoughts on the changes. We'll have to, of course, wait until the changes actually arrive to actually say how good they're going to be. But thus far, they are heading into the right direction. I don't necessarily think that some of the thought processes, like what Pablo mentioned, is the correct way of thinking about it, because I really don't think that crowd control is detrimental to the game itself. I think actually crowd control is a very good thing to have. It's a very important thing to have, because otherwise we're just going to be having extremely extreme damage output Warframes out there, and crowd control is just going to be essentially dead at some point. Or maybe not. Maybe I'm just over exaggerating. Maybe I'm just talking shit. But that's just my initial thoughts. And yeah, that's pretty much it. They did talk about a couple of other stuff. They did mention that they are going to be, adding some new stuff for the TennoCon, which were really cool. I like the armor set, the whole costume for the operator, which is also going to be for the drifter. So that's really cool. And it looked really nice. It looked really nice. They also did show off a couple of Pride celebration stuff, like the new color palette, which is really cool. It's gonna be really nice. And they did show off the glyph for Pride Month, which is gonna be. It looks really cool. I really like it a lot. I like how it's Banshee and Octavia, and it looks really cool. It looks really cool. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I mainly, though, wanted to talk about the Eximus units, because like I said, it was something that we touched bases on in the Zariman video, so I kind of want to give it a follow-up and kind of share my initial thoughts on it. But yeah, once, of course, the TE changes do go live, I will make another video talking about what I thought about the changes and whatever I found in regards to the community's feedback on it. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. It was pretty. I thought it was gonna be a shorter one, but I do babble on for too long, and I do, of course, apologize for that. But I guess if you guys are watching this video, it's because of that. So anyway, guys, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.